This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
How would you like to get more customers, make more profits, and have bigger breakthroughs? Get Doberman Dan's Profit Boosting Breakthroughs. Normally, this would cost you $98 per month, but right now, for listening to this show, he's giving you a free copy of his Doberman Dan letter. All you have to do is go to DobermanDan.com and sign up to get your free copy now.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
You're listening to the Off the Chain Show. Welcome back, Canine Crew, to another edition. And if you were with us last week, then you know that we were having some fun with Dr. Glenn Livingston, and things are about to get intense. So I don't even want to make you wait. Let's jump on into part 2 with Dr. Glenn Livingston.
It's good to explore. It's good to look at the particular binge foods that you're into and figure out how did that pattern start. And, you'll learn a lot about your life. My relationship is better with my mom. I know a little bit more that I have to work on loneliness and heartbreak in my life, and ladies. But I know that I need to do that. And that's improved my life in a soulful way, but it didn't do anything for the binge eating. And the reason is that there's a mediating voice between impulse and action. Whatever is causing the impulse, whether the impulse is caused by an emotional upset, whether the impulse is caused by a new type of advertising that's highlighting the industrial foods that are engineered to press our evolutionary buttons in a way they were never pressed, and we were not prepared to have them be pressed. I mean, there were no chocolate bars on the savannah, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's a nutritional deficiency, whatever it is that's driving that craving, there's always a mediating factor because of the way that the brain is laid out. In evolutionary terms, we've got 3 parts of the brain. We've got the lizard brain. And when lizard brain sees something in the environment, it's saying, eat, mate, or kill. Do I eat it? Do I mate with it? Or do I kill it?
That's pretty much how I view life at this point.
Ladies. And then above the lizard brain is the mammalian brain. And the mammalian brain starts to take into account tribe and herd. So before I eat, mate, or kill something, what impact does that have on the rest of the family that I care about? But then above that is the logical brain, or the neocortex. And that's where most of what we think of ourselves as human is, where our aspirations and goals and ability to delay gratification and creativity and music and soul and everything that we really associate with being a functioning member of society, that really comes from the logical brain. And that can delay the impulse even further for planning purposes so you can achieve a loftier goal. And the thing about this is that each layer of the brain is really superior to the next. I know a neurophysiologist will someday get on and take me to task about how simplified I'm making this. But the bottom line is we have the ability as human beings, because of the way that we've evolved, to inhibit just about any impulse. And so between the, oh my God, I'm so lonely and my mama didn't love me enough and I'm having those feelings again and chocolate makes it better, between that and making a decision about what I'm actually going to eat is a little voice in my head that tells me, what am I going to do and rationalize whatever I'm going to do. And if you can learn to hear that little voice and kind of sort out the constructive voices from the destructive voices, then you can make choices. And so rather than trying to love yourself thin, if you're standing at Starbucks and there's a big hairy chocolate bar on the counter and this little voice says, Glenn, chocolate comes from a cocoa bean, and cocoa beans grow on a tree, and a tree is a plant, and therefore chocolate is a vegetable.
This is health food, man.
This is health food. Then you know immediately that that's coming from the lizard brain. And what you want to do is make definitions about what's healthy eating for you. So for example, I never eat chocolate on a weekday. I'll never eat chocolate on a weekday again. If you make a definition about what's healthy for you, then you can tell and immediately assign that voice to the lizard brain, to your destructive thinking. And rather than loving that, you can cultivate a sense of distaste and a sense of superiority towards it, the same way that an alpha wolf would treat a challenger in the pack. And you snarl and you growl it down. You don't love it. You don't love it and treat it like an inner wounded child and say, oh, come here, baby, I'm sorry you're hurting. You growl at it and you say, get back in your cage or I'll kill you. You can't actually kill that part of yourself because it's it's your brainstem and it's part of you need to survive, but it's being misdirected and you can aggressively separate from those destructive thoughts. And so, for example, I decided to call my lizard brain my pig. I decided that whatever was over the line, so if I say I'm never going to eat chocolate on a weekday again, then any chocolate during the week was pig slop. I decided that anything that the pig actually said, which suggested I could eat chocolate during the week, was pig squeal. For example, chocolate is a vegetable. That was pig squeal. And whenever I had a craving, I would say, well, I don't eat pig slop and I don't listen to farm animals tell me what to do. And after all the years of psychotherapy and all of my education and the tens of millions of dollars of consulting we did and all the big corporations we work with and the $10,000 study we funded, after all of that, it was, I don't eat pig slop and I don't let farm animals tell me what to do. And that's what got control for me.
And that's what did it. And those are all very they evoke very unpleasant images and are associated with negative things. Pig slop and pig, cage your pig.
Yes. And I by the way, I'm a vegan and I want people to treat pigs in real life very kindly. They actually need our help. They're being tortured. And pigs are actually very sweet, but they don't eat human food. They don't eat the same way that you really want to eat as a human in society. And so it makes a good mental construct to work with.
Interesting. So, what I'm picking up from this is simplified street cop psychology education I got. People don't want to hear this, but personal responsibility. Your thoughts are under your control.
Oh, this is all about responsibility and freedom. There's a genie loose in our culture these days that says you can't control yourself. You're powerless over your impulses. The best you can hope to do is abstain one day at a time. Progress, not perfection. I mean, when I tell people that it's possible for them to say, I'll never eat chocolate again, they look at me with two heads, look at me like I have two heads. And some people accuse me of being the devil. It's, and what I tell them is that, our country is about responsibility and freedom. That's what our country is about. And it might feel better to disclaim responsibility. It might feel better to say, well, I was out of control. It was unconscious eating. I had too many uncomfortable feelings. I couldn't help myself. I was just comforting myself. It might feel better because it alleviates your sense of shame. But I would argue that it's better to feel a temporary sense of shame, not to perseverate about it, not to be neurotic or psychotic with your guilt. But it's kind of like if you touch the hot stove, you don't want to say, I can't help myself. I'm a compulsive hot stove toucher. What's wrong with me? I mean, you don't want to perseverate about that. You just want to figure out, why the hell did you touch the hot stove and how are you going to avoid it in the future? And feel the pain for a minute. Don't keep rubbing your nose in it. Let go and move on.
And the hot stove is a pretty big incentive to not touch it anymore. The pain from that, I mean.
Yes, and if you anesthetize yourself against that pain, you're anesthetizing yourself against the learning too.
Ooh. So how are people?
I'm smarter than you? I told you.
Yeah, you're proving it. You're proving it time and time again. How do people anesthetize themselves against experiencing the pain they need to experience to get their shit together? To use a proper psychological term, to get their shit together.
So the rest of the 12-step argument, which there's no proof for, is that the compulsion is a disease. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a disease. It's an irresistible impulse against which there's no human power that can help you. And, relapse is part of recovery, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now when it comes to food, people make mistakes, right? But that doesn't mean you can't strive for a clarity of focus and commitment that you do in every other area of life where, the psychology of winning isn't so perverted by these philosophies. So, for example, your question is how do people anesthetize them? They anesthetize themselves by saying, this is a disease, I'm not responsible. Relapse is just a part of recovery and I really couldn't help myself.
So now I've got an excuse, and especially because that seems to be supported in our society. Now I got an excuse to go do all the stuff that I just want to do guilt-free, like all the lizard brain stuff. I'm just going to go eat stuff, kill things, and mate with them. And just have at it.
I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. It's usually confined to physiological pleasure. It's usually confined to something that's pleasurable, but it becomes a toxic pleasure that turns out not to be so good for us. Right. And so the polar opposite of shame is sociopathy. Right? If you lack the capacity, people don't recognize that there's a reason that we have these feelings. There's a reason that we can feel shame. There's a reason that we can feel guilt. Yes, it got perverted during the Victorian era. Yes, We develop norms and cultures that cause too much repression and too much guilt over a normal degree of aggression and sexuality. But you don't want to excise your capacity entirely for feeling guilty or feeling ashamed, because if you do that, you have lost your ability to take responsibility and see what's really going on. You're essentially making yourself unconscious and removing your power. So along with the shame goes the power. Along with the removal of the shame comes helplessness. It all centers around people's willingness to make character commitments. So willpower is a fatigable muscle. If you get up in the morning and think you're going to avoid chocolate, you can probably avoid it in the morning. And then you kind of go through the afternoon, you can avoid it. But by the end of the day, it gets harder and harder because there's only so many good decisions you can make during the day. It actually burns glucose in your brain to fire the neurons that have to choose between A and B. And that's why there's only so many good decisions you can make. However, if you've made the decisions in advance, if you say, I will never have chocolate again, or I'll never have chocolate during the week again, then it doesn't really require any willpower because there's no decisions to be made. For example, when you walk into a diner and nobody's looking and someone left a tip on the table for the waitress, there's a $20 bill on the table for a waitress or a $10 bill on the table for the waitress. Does it require your willpower not to take that $10 bill?
I imagine for some people it does.
But the vast majority of people would say no because they're not a thief. Right?
Right.
And they've made the decision to be a law-abiding citizen. They've made the decision to be a moral person, and they know that that money belongs to the waitress. And they're not the kind of person that would take that money, that would take money that doesn't belong to them. That's a decision of character, and it's decisions of character that beat the willpower problem. I will never have chocolate again really means I'm not the kind of person who will ever eat chocolate. I'm not the kind of person who eats chocolate. And even if you make a mistake, you can still say, I am becoming the kind of person who never eats chocolate. It's a character commitment. And people are very frightened of character commitments these days. And that's why it's a good deal, well, at least in part, it's why we've got such an obesity epidemic. It's why we've got a drug epidemic. It's why we have an alcoholic epidemic, is that people are really frightened of a good old-fashioned character commitment and taking moral responsibility for something, and they're frightened of the shame and they want to anesthetize themselves against it. So
commitment means commitment. It doesn't mean like I'm going to do this for a week. And that doesn't seem to be promoted anymore these days, the character commitment thing. Everybody's got an excuse for everything, and now there's names to justify it, you know?
Well, here's a vow that I never heard at a wedding. Never heard someone say, you know, honey, I'm about 90% sure that I can be faithful forever, but there sure are a lot of attractive people out there.
Now, my starter wife, that should have been her vows, but we won't go there. So how does somebody, so this makes perfect sense. By the way, you're saying stuff that a lot of people don't want to hear, you know?
Yeah, you should see some of the negative reviews I get.
I'm sure you do.
I jump out the window sometimes when I read what people write about me, but there's 4 times as many people that absolutely love it and say that it's saving their life, so I keep doing it.
Well, how do you apply this? The chocolate analogy makes perfect sense. And I can see, I mean, all the words you were using, pig slop and managing, what did you call it? Managing your pig or caging your pig?
Yeah, caging the pig. Yep.
Like all really negative, they have negative feelings and word pictures associated with them. Pig slop, like who wants to eat pig slop? So how do you use, or can you use that for, let me see. Let me pick out one of the things I struggle with because I'm a selfish bastard. This podcast is all about helping me, damn it. Mm-hmm. Let's say you consistently procrastinate on one particular item, one particular thing. You're supposed to be doing it every day. You should be doing it every day, but you procrastinate every day. How do you apply that to that, or can you?
Well, for example, like just to reveal something personal you were talking to me about, if you can't get yourself to masturbate every day, is that what you mean?
Exactly. I said, because I think it's early programming. When they told me I grow hair on my palms, that just, turns me off.
Give me an example. What would that thing be?
Okay, so let's say, here's a great example.
By the way, you guys, I really am a compassionate doctor. Dan just makes me into an adolescent. At the end of the call, I'd love to give out a website where people can get some stuff for free and they can hear some sessions and how this is actually used by a person when I'm being serious. But go ahead.
I had that influence, but it's my gift. It's my gift to bring people back down to their 14-year-old level. Here's a great example. Every freaking day on my little GQs, this to-do list thing that's connected with Google, it has spend 33 minutes on my new book, which, shameless plug, is called Just Sell the Damn Thing. Now, do I do it every day? No. It's because, and here's my justification. I've got other projects. Some are my own projects. Some are for clients. So it's like, I feel this pull of, well, this is my deal. If I delay that, no big deal. There's no consequences. But the client thing, there's consequences and deadlines. So my book keeps getting shoved to the back burner. Now, I know better, but it still keeps happening.
Okay. Would you be willing to completely separate the part of you which procrastinates about this from the part of you that doesn't?
Yes.
Can we call the part of you that can procrastinate your inner slacker?
Yeah, that's a pretty good, that's a pretty good description. Yeah.
Okay. And when the slacker says the client...
Wait a minute. Can I interrupt you? Does this term need to be emotionally painful or have negative connotations? The more negative, the better?
Yeah, it's better. If it's better,
okay.
It's negative.
Then let's call him the inner loser.
Okay. So when your inner loser says, I was going to call it slacker squeal, so it would have some alliteration, but your losers, we'll call it loser lips or something like that. So when your inner loser says anything that suggests that we have to define the behavior first. So we need a definition so that if I followed you around all month long and John followed you around all month long, we would both agree whether you acted in concert 100% with your stated intention or not. So could we say, I will never do client work before spending 33 minutes on my own book on any given calendar day again? Is that too strong?
No. I mean, that being the end goal, that would be great.
Well, see, that was just your inner loser that was trying to backpedal a little bit.
That bastard.
So, but I need to know if you want to commit to this or not.
Okay. All right. So, damn it. You're making me. It's hard enough to make a commitment. Now you're asking me to make a public commitment. All right. Damn it.
We'll do it. Don't commit to it yet. Let's just talk hypothetically about what the rule might be.
I'm ready to. I need to. I mean, all joking aside, I kind of feel like I'm on what I do. I'm on a mission from God. Nobody else can do what I do. And I need to finish my stuff. I need to get this out there in the world. So I
feel like that too. I understand.
So
Dan, I'm just going to brainstorm some different ways we could phrase the rule. And you tell me which one you might like to work with. One is how I just did it, which said, I will never do a single word of client work again on any given calendar day until I've done at least 33 minutes on my own book.
Okay. Now that one I like. And here's what's ironic about it. I've given that advice to other people and it was good advice and it worked out really good. So maybe I should take my own damn advice.
Okay. So then I'd like you to imagine that it's a year from now. And even though your inner loser says this is impossible and has all kinds of reasons why you're not going to be able to do this, I'd like you to imagine that it's a year from now and you did do it 100%. What's different in your life because you did this 100%?
Well, what's different in my life? Well, what's weird about commitments is it spills over into every aspect of your life. So we're just talking about finishing a book now, but there's character aspects that come from just making a commitment, period. So yeah, of course, I would have finished the book, but I expect to see improvement in all kinds of other things that maybe could be things that could be procrastinated or, starting new projects, coming up with new products for my own business. That could be done more frequently. I could see the commitment to finish the book spilling over into that. And then me coming up with more products more consistently for my own business, therefore bringing in new customers into my business, therefore bringing in more income. Plus the feelings you get when you complete things. I mean, that's like, you can't put a price on that.
So it's already happened, Dan. I want you to imagine it's a year from now. It's actually already happened. It's not a hypothetical. You actually did it. What do you see? Talk to me about the new projects that got executed. What specific new customers are in your life? How is your life different? How is your lifestyle different? Talk to me about that.
So here's what I see. I see my marketing Camelot, my membership doubled in size. I see my book being a success and being promoted by others. And like I said, I see more product development in my own business. And
what products did you develop that you haven't had a chance to develop?
Oh, there's several. The first one that should have been developed a long time ago is my system for launching a nutritional supplement business. That's been on the back burner way too long. I mean, I have people asking about that all the time, and it's just not getting done.
Got it. Cool. What impact would it have in your life if your Camelot membership doubled?
Oh, well, that would have a big impact because at that point I could focus on that. I mean, that's been a sideline business. I love it. It's been a sideline business while I've been doing client work. And it's also, what most people don't realize, it's a feeder system for clients. So it's not just the income from that and the subscription and stuff like that. Really good clients come from the membership. But if the membership grew, just because there's only one of me and only 24 hours in a day, I would need to cut back on client work, which is perfectly fine with me. That would allow me to just focus on my marketing Camelot and also write more of the stuff that I really should be writing, like this Just Sell the Damn Thing book.
Would you be happier?
I would. I can almost picture it now. Yes, I would. I'd be happier and there'd be less stress.
How would it impact your relationships and your friends and things like that?
Well, I think my wife would tell you, a lovely Colombiana, that when Doberman Dan is not stressed, he's a much more pleasant person to be around. I see her laughing more with me when I'm less stressed. So that will make a big impact on her.
And what impact would it have on you physically? Would you have more time to get out or go to the gym or do anything
all
like
of that? Yeah, all of that. Plus, I've been working on certain things for a long time, like especially the chronic pain I've suffered for 31 years now. And that finally, it took me 30 years to figure this out. That's all emotionally related. So when the stress levels go down, when I'm happier, miraculously, the pain gets much better.
So, Dan, do you really believe in your heart of hearts that if you didn't write one word for another client before you did 33 minutes in the morning for yourself, that all this would happen?
I really do. I'm picturing it now. Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds like it's inevitable of it happening.
So then, okay, let's give your inner loser a chance. I'd like to know from the inner loser, and by the way, you know I love you, but I'm not going to like your loser too much. So if I'm making you uncomfortable, it's really that I'm just making your loser uncomfortable. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. I don't like him that much either.
Okay. We're going to call it an it rather than a him because we don't want to give it the dignity of a personal pronoun.
Okay.
Let's give it a chance. What are all the things that the loser says that suggest you can't do this, won't do this, shouldn't do this?
You can do it tomorrow. It's not urgent. It's there's other stuff that has a higher priority.
Good. What else?
Let's see. You suck as a writer. Nobody's going to read this shit.
It's not urgent. You suck. No one's going to read it. Mm-hmm. What else?
Let's see. You're irrelevant. Nobody wants to hear about this stuff anymore. They just want to hear about the bright, shiny objects, the fad of the day.
It's not urgent. You suck as a writer. And this is not bright, shiny object stuff anyway, so no one wants to hear about it. It's irrelevant.
Uh-huh.
What else?
Let's see. You're just doing this to get laid. No, I'm just kidding, Ash. But although there is a somewhat of a truth to that. What else? I'm not coming up with anything else. I think it's the recurring theme is don't worry about it. No big deal. Just put it off.
So let's look at each of those loser lips, and I'm going to call them loser squeals. I can't come up with a better word for it.
I like loser lips. That works for me.
Okay. Let's look at all the loser lips, and you don't have to remember the answer to these. We're just coming up with an answer so that you're going to recognize it as loser lips later on. The trick to all this is just recognizing the voice. You don't have to always have the answer. But we're going to do something called cognitive disputation, rational disputation, to really drive home that the loser is ridiculous. So when the loser says that it's not urgent, you can do it tomorrow, what would be a better answer for that?
A better answer would be do it now. It's only 33 minutes.
Yeah. And the only time you can ever do productive work is right now. Right now is always the most valuable moment you have.
Yeah. It's the only moment we have.
We always use the present moment to be productive. That's right. What you can say. Okay. What about when the loser says that you suck as a writer?
There are some people who may not relate to me, and that's fine. I know for a fact that there are others who totally resonate with me, and they're going to love what I write.
I don't think you'd be getting paid what you get paid if you really sucked all.
Depends on which day you catch me, Some days I feel pretty damn good. Others I think, I suck. I'm going to go apply for the greeter job at Walmart.
What about when the loser says that it's not relevant anymore, what you want to write about?
human nature never changes. This is about human nature and persuasion. And regardless of what the fad of the month is in online marketing, how you present a sales message never changes.
John, do you remember what the last one was? I wasn't writing it down. What was the last loser lips? Or Dan, do you remember it? Just don't worry about it. Do it later.
Yeah. That's it. Because it's all some sort of procrastination related theme. Yeah.
And the answer to that is?
The book will never get done. Do it now. It's only 33 minutes. You'll spend more than 33 minutes making excuses of why you want to procrastinate.
Okay. So if we define procrastination as writing even one word for a client before you spend 33 minutes writing for yourself, how confident are you that you're never going to procrastinate again?
On a scale of 1 to 10?
To 100. 1 to 100.
1 to 100? So I'll give it a 95.
Mm-hmm. And where's that other 5% coming from?
The other 5% in the back of my head is I'm thinking, what if there's like some urgent deadline and I need to jump on it right now?
What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is, if there's an urgent deadline, just, you know what, get up 45 minutes earlier and do your thing before the urgent deadline thing. Simple.
So how confident are you that you're never going to procrastinate again?
Now I'm feeling really confident. I'd have to give it a 10.
You give it 100? 100%?
Yeah. I'm sorry out of 100. I'm still on the 1 to 10 scale for some reason. Then I'd have to give it 100.
You're 100% confident that you'll never procrastinate again?
I'm 99.9%.
Well, okay. I actually want you to be 100% arbitrarily.
Okay.
Because here's what happens. We can't excise the lizard brain from our body. It's always there. And so there's always this little underlying sense of anxiety that it's going to get you. What we can do is semantically define it as separate from ourselves. Mm-hmm. We can take a leap of faith and arbitrarily declare ourselves 100% confident, even though there's this lurking sense of, gee, maybe I might do this someday. You can declare yourself as 100% confident that you'll never procrastinate again, even if your loser has other ideas. And that's the linguistic separation of you from the loser. When you linguistically separate from the loser, you've kind of installed an algorithm that says, any voice in my head that suggests I might procrastinate even the tiniest bit is the loser. And when you hear that voice and you say, wait a minute, I don't want to procrastinate, the loser wants to procrastinate, it sounds like the same thing, but it's really not, because what follows the idea that the loser wants to procrastinate is, I don't have to. I'm separate from the loser. I am not my loser, right? And it's a total semantic definition. The loser exists because we say it exists. We're allowed to use language to control our thoughts and actions. We can define our thinking any way we want to. We can define our identity any way that we want to. And so I will never procrastinate again, but my loser has other ideas. That's how you do it. And you start using that language whenever you hear the loser speaking up in your head, and you'll find yourself making better decisions.
You know, this is really coming together for him. By the way, this was we had no planning today. This just went wherever it was going to go, and it went somewhere really interesting. This is really coming together for me because this is exactly how Doberman Dan came into being. So Dan Gallipoo has all these qualities that piss me off and I hate, like procrastination and all that stuff. So Doberman Dan was created as the alter ego, the superhero, Dan Gallipoo with his best foot forward with none of his flaws. So I'm feeling this. This makes a lot of sense to me.
Good. It's very powerful once it's installed, and it's hard to forget. You'll have a hard time forgetting this experience, and it'll start to go to work on you and protect you against future thoughts. And you have to make a conscious effort to work it, but you'll know that this way of thinking exists, and you'll have it as a tool going forward.
This was so helpful, man. So give out information about how people get more info about you, or whatever you want to put out there.
Well, you know what? I'm going to put out since that's mostly what we talked about today. We didn't really talk that much about entrepreneurial pursuits. I'm going to tell people to go to neverbingeagain.com and click the big red More button to get the free reader bonuses. When you do that, you'll also get directed to a link that will let you download the book for free on Amazon or on the Nook, on the Kindle or the Nook. And if you're not able to get that, sometimes out of the country they can't do that, then just let us know and we'll send you a PDF. What you also get are recorded sessions, which are not unlike what I just did with Dan, but they're focused around food. A whole bunch of free recorded sessions so you can see how this is implemented in practice, and a bunch of food plan starter templates so that you can, and they're coordinated for any diet, so it doesn't matter how you eat. So you can see the kind of rules and how they come together as a group that help people to use this technique. So at neverbingeagain.com, click the big red More button.
Thanks for sharing that. You know, I hope you'll come back because you're a world-class marketer and you've got some really valuable lessons. You've been a really successful entrepreneur. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. So I hope you'll come back.
I'll come back anytime you want.
All right.
Because he's smarter than you, better looking.
That's right.
Because I'm smarter than all you guys. You guys are really, really, really stupid.
In addition to that, the next time you come back, the one thing I want to talk about is I've had a total shift in my thinking as far as reality. I've given up my search for the truth, and now I'm just looking for a really good delusion I can believe in. So I want to talk about my new delusions and how I'm delving into that. I can't wait to share that with you. Hey, thanks again, Glenn. I appreciate it.
All right. That is a wrap for another Off the Chain show. We'll be back in your earbuds next time. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And remember, if you want to create rivers of revenue from your existing customers, then the next thing you need to do is go to DobermanDan.com. He's given away a free copy of his $98 per month Doberman Dan letter just for listening to the show. Go to DobermanDan.com now and sign up for your free issue.
This is the podcastfactory.com.